Hey, it's the Mike Rogers Show here with you, and a special edition of the Mike Rogers Show. We have in the studio right now the Cynz, Cindy Dawson, and Henry Size. Hey, how's it going? Okay.
Hi, Mike.
Hey. So
long time no see.
Long time no see. Hey, you guys are wearing the same clothes. Me too.
Yeah. Oh no, you gave away the clue.
So you guys were talking about you went to Sweden, or you didn't go to Sweden?
It wasn't our first time.
It was our second time in Sweden.
Yeah, we have friends that in bands there that have come to New York. We've done shows with them in New York. I love Stockholm. I absolutely love it. And the weirdest thing that had never happened to us before, believe it or not, as often as we play in New York. We were up on stage and we were doing our show, and I look out in the audience and they're not only singing along to our songs, but they're calling out songs. Like they knew the names of our songs and they knew the words.
Yeah, that was the first.
I looked at Henry. I mean, we just looked at each other and I thought, this is one of the best band moments I've ever had in all these years.
That would happen in Japan too. The Japanese are that way. They'll know your songs. They'll know all the lyrics, but they can't speak English.
But yet they understand it. And another thing that's really incredible is every once in a while I get a gift from somebody in Japan. I don't know what it costs to send these things over to me. But one time I got a box and it had Flaming Groovy's t-shirt and it had a bouquet. It was a bouquet of teddy bears and little candies. I mean, just like things that you would never get from an American. It was just absolutely adorable and beautiful and interesting.
Let me brag. I can guarantee you, almost guarantee you, 99% that person who sent you that heard you on my show. Because in Japan, okay, wait a minute. Hey, I'm busy now, so I'll call you back. So, there's 38 million people in Tokyo, but there's only 5 FM stations. That's it. And none of them are playing indies bands at all. They only play the big, Sony, Warner, because Sony or Warner is paying the radio stations or something like that. So I'm the only one in this country that's doing this now.
Wow.
And it's I know. I'm just kind of like, even
it's kind of shocking, really.
Yeah, when I was a FM radio DJ, I'd play a lot of indies bands and my shows would get popular. And then the radio station would be like, hey, play this and play this and play this, start playing this stuff. And I would say no. And they would cancel my show. And so I've been fired from every FM station. This is a true story. Every FM station in Tokyo at least once.
At least once.
And I wear that as a proud, stinky badge of honor.
Hey! At least once. So you went back for more punishment.
One station has fired me 4 times.
Wow.
Well, what happened? The manager would fire me, and then he would get fired, and then these other people would come in, and they would hire me back, and the same thing would happen. It was just like a cycle.
Yeah. That's
so
crazy.
Wasn't
it Howard Stern that got fired?
I think
Mike, you're a renegade and a rebel
with a cause.
Well, yeah, but indies music is the coolest.
It is.
It is.
By far, I think so.
And I think one of the reasons that makes it that way is that, everybody always says, what kind of music do you play? And I don't think that there's a real label to describe us or most indie bands I know, because honestly, like our songs, they range in so many different styles.
Yeah.
I came in with my influences. Henry came in with his influences. And when you mesh them, I tend to be more punk. He tends to be more pretty. And our styles mushed together could run the gamut of anything and in between those two styles. So I mean, you can't really say that the Cynz are any one thing. We're everything.
It's rock and roll.
Yeah. So when the Cynz started out, did you guys start out as the Cynz, or Did you have another
yeah.
band before that, or what was the deal?
Yeah, no, we sat in a bar one time.
Writing on napkins.
And writing on napkins, trying to say, well, what are we going to call this band? And we came up with the most obnoxious names, a lot of obscenities. And we finally said, let's call ourselves the Cynz, Sin, and my last name ends with a Z.
Oh.
So Cynz.
I never figured that out.
But the funny thing is when you tell Alexa, I don't know if you have Alexas over. So when you say, Alexa, play the Cynz, there apparently is a band that was SINS. And it's so hard. And then I get mad at Alexa. I'm like, not the Cynz, the Cynz. And I'm trying to, speak out the Z to Alexa. Now we're getting played more if you ask Alexa to play you, because the more airplay we get, the more she recognizes us as a band. But and there's also, we couldn't copyright the name at one time because there's a DJ, a famous DJ called Cynz with the CYNZ.
Oh.
So for some reason we couldn't trademark or what is that? When you own something on the internet, you own a domain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So where does that guy DJ? Do you know?
It's a woman.
Oh, it's a woman. Oh.
Yeah. I don't know. It's like she's very, very well known. Apparently, if you Google Cynz, there's just a ton of stuff on her.
Wow.
So she's obviously been around for a long time and owns the rights to the name. But we're not Cynz. We're the Cynz.
Oh.
I don't know if that makes a difference.
Well, to be perfectly honest, if we had a trademark attorney on our side, like I just took advantage of one of those things, copyright your song today, and just went about it that way. And the trademark application got the thumbs down from the government.
Right.
And so I think if we had some representation to take us through the legal, channels that we may have made out, maybe we'll try again. But, we're just, we're making music, and so far it hasn't been a problem.
Yeah, when you're an indie band, one of the biggest problems you face is that it's, you're somebody who is writing or playing an instrument. You're not schooled in the business of music. And if you don't take it upon yourself to learn and protect yourself, and you really have to learn how this business works. Because if you don't copyright your stuff and you don't register with, say, ASCAP or BMI, not that there's a lot of money to be made in occasional plays.
But you never know.
Yeah. And we have been really lucky that we just took the time and said, you know what, we need to learn this stuff and protect ourselves. We're really, really protective of each other as well.
Yeah. So we formed our own publishing company. So we own.
That's good.
We own our own publishing, that can't be taken away. And that's one of the things we learned. Hang on to your publishing.
Yeah. So Henry, you should make a deal with some Japanese publisher, so that they're the sub publisher for your stuff here, because Japanese corporations like to buy songs and then use them for commercials or ending themes of like news programs or stuff like that. And they do that a lot in this country. And I know one musician who sold a song, and I don't know who he sold it to. Maybe it was a car company or some TV station, and he got millions of dollars.
Yeah, well, that's easy to take.
Yeah. Well, so the Japanese company, acts as a rep here, and of course they're trying to get as much money as possible too, because they probably get a quarter of it or something. I'm not sure. And then the publishing company in the States gets a quarter of the total money too.
Yeah.
And then you as writers also get, I don't know, 12.5% or something like that.
Right.
That could fund a nice little tour to Japan.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, I would recommend doing that. I usually don't tell artists stuff like this, because it's like, do you have a publisher? And they're like, no, it's not necessary. I'm just like,
Yeah.
It is necessary, and the sooner bands learn that, the better they'll be.
Yeah, I know. It's just astounding to me how bands are so loose with the business.
Yeah.
And
a lot of people feel like they're just doing it for fun. And that's great. I mean, we all do this for fun. It's fun.
How we started out. We started out doing it for fun, but then
we never planned. We never ever even thought that it would last this long. Like I said in the other interview we did with you, I never looked at this as career or money, but we did start to make money, and once that started happening, then we realized, okay, this is different than just having fun.
Yeah, we should get a little more serious about it.
Yeah. Well, when Cindy, when you told me about Marty from Gem writing you an email and saying, send us your song, and then you told him, no, we don't, not going to send you our, who are you kind of thing. Actually, that was a good answer because he respects you now, because most artists, sure, I'll send it off to anybody, No,
because they'll take your song and they'll record it and they'll take it away from you.
That's right.
Right.
Especially if the song hasn't been released.
Right.
And anyone can record it, and it basically becomes their song unless you go to court and fight with them, which you don't want to do. That's for sure.
Right. And most people know that it would cost you more money in court than the song possibly would make anyway. I get requests from people all the time. I get all these letters on Facebook from people I don't know, and bless them for having the guts to do it. But they'll say, hey, I've got this piece of music. Can I send it to you? Maybe you can write some lyrics for it. But it's not that I'm completely opposed to ever writing with somebody else. But to be honest with you, my time and my energy and my effort and my ideas, I want to invest into the Cynz.
Yeah.
For now.
If somebody writes, I mean, this is just my opinion. If somebody writes to you and says, we need lyrics for this, I would just write back, okay, well, I need $500 per song or whatever.
You want to manage us?
I was the general manager of one of the biggest radio stations in Japan, up till 2007. And I founded Tower Records label in Asia.
You did?
Yeah, I did. So the boss was a guy named Keith Cahoon, and I met Mr. Solomon many times. But you saw that Tower Records movie about the end of Tower Records?
Yeah, I saw
that thing on Netflix.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, you saw that? Yeah. So I saw that too, and I kind of thought, well. Anyways, in Japan, Tower Records was run and still run professionally. That's all I'll say.
Yeah.
So
we don't get a lot of music from Japan, but Japan gets a lot of music from America, and there has to be a great music scene there. There must be.
Well, I have a story about that. It's funny that we got signed to Gem Records, because back from the mid 70s to the early 80s, I used to work at Gem Records when they were distributing import records from overseas. They were distributing from England, from Japan, Italy, France, and selling these imports in the United States. Many times, a lot of these titles were unavailable in U.S. pressings. One of their biggest records ever was Cheap Trick Live.
That's what started
that. Yeah, the Budokan record. That was an enormous seller.
I think that's what got Gem off on the map.
Yeah, really. Well, they were kind of on the map, but that was just one of the biggest import records. I mean, there was a time you couldn't get that record in the United States. You had to get it as an import.
So in Japan, I'm not saying the musicians are more up on the law, but most of the musicians understand music publishing law a little bit, and they know that if you don't sign with JASRAC, which is the ASCAP BMI thing in Japan, JASRAC everyone considers a criminal organization. But I mean, I don't. They're doing what they're supposed to do, and that's why Japanese artists still sell records in this country. They still sell records. They still sell CDs. They still sell DVDs and things like that. And they sell them a lot. There's still record stores. There's a huge Tower Records in Shibuya, which is like 9 stories tall. Like it's a huge record store. It's the biggest record store in the world. And it was the biggest record store in the world even 20 years ago. And kids still go there and still buy the records. And Jazz Rack is really strict about music rights and laws. And that's why I say you should get a deal with a Japanese publisher.
Right.
Because Jazz Rack does not screw around with music. I'll tell you one last story. Wait, I don't want to hear my talking, but some piano schools in Japan, little kids piano schools, they were using sheet music from, like, I don't know, Billy Joel, Piano Man, or whatever, something like that. And Jazz Rack went in there and said, no, you can't do that. You know, you can play Chopin and Mozart and stuff like that, but you can't play Billy Joel and you can't play the hits. And people were so pissed off at Jazz Rack. And a lot of people told me, and I was like, hey, they're just doing their job.
Yeah. I own a bar that we have DJs on the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to pay a very hefty yearly fee to ASCAP and BMI in order to even be a DJ.
Yeah.
And you know, I used to be really resentful of that, because it's like everybody wants a piece of your money. It's to the point where, like, it's hard to make money, but because we have to pay the DJ. Now we have to pay fees for the DJ to even play music. But now that I am on the other side of that,
now you see the other side of the coin.
Yeah, I mean, I you know, you struggle so hard to make any money in music that it's nice that somebody's out there protecting you. I think they are.
I'm often surprised. I tell people, like, you know, we'll go to a restaurant and they'll be playing music, and I'll say to them, I hate this music. Do you like it? And they'll say, yeah, I like this, but there's something funny about it. It's like, well, it's not the original songs, because if it's not the original songs, it's a cheaper price to pay. Like, it'll be a family restaurant, like what's it called? Sizzler or Denny's or something.
Yeah.
And they'll play American
like a Muzak version of
the Muzak version, but it probably costs them about, I don't know, $40 or $400, $500, $1,000 a month.
Wow.
And
that's
high. Yeah, but you know, this is a big restaurant, you know, so so that's just cheap.
Well, true. It has to do with capacity.
Yeah. So
just you know, musicians having their music used fairly, I think is the key.
Okay. Can you guys give me one last quote or word? Okay, this is always done in Japan. They will always do this. We'll ask you, do you have any last words for our Japanese audience? And everyone gets that question and they're all like, so we're going to practice for when you come to Japan, okay?
I actually do.
Okay.
Go for it.
I'm never at a loss for words. My advice would be that if you find music that you like, because I do this, you find a band that you discover and you really like them, share their music, turn other people on to them, because we really, as us indie bands, really get by the support of people kind of just stumbling upon us, and radio. Those are the two things that are really helping us to keep going.
Yeah.
So I discover bands all the time because I'm always listening to different things that I can hear new music on. And if I hear a song I really like, I'll share it for other people to learn about them too.
It's a lot of words.
Well, it wasn't one word, but I never have to do it.
You know, Cindy, like, actually, there is no internet radio in Japan.
Oh.
Like, from broadcasting from Japan overseas, internet radio, it doesn't exist.
So even though you have internet in Japan, they can't get on these.
Yeah. Well, my station is, like, for example, WFMU. They're broadcasting from New Jersey, so people can listen to it. But in Japanese, if you do the show in Japanese from here, if I do it from here, Jazz Rack won't allow it.
I didn't know that.
So there are no internet.
That's complicated.
Yeah, there are no internet radio stations in Japan.
Wow. And we have millions. And we have so many that, you know, if there's, it seems like everybody I know has a radio show here. And it's wonderful because, you know, anybody could start up a radio show, anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And because
more often than not, it's a podcast. You know, somebody will put together like a podcast.
No, they're radio stations. Like there'll be a company like Blog Talk Radio, and anybody can get on and start a show on it.
Yeah.
There are literally thousands of shows on the site. And so, you know, it's very difficult unless you 24/7, you listen to radio shows. You're just not going to hear most of them.
Yeah.
So I think it's wonderful. But really, it's the big stations that the majority of people are listening to, like Underground Garage. You know, I happen to like some of the ones where you can get an app on your phone and listen through your app.
Yeah.
Because the apps are really clear now.
Yeah.
But radio for me is extremely important. But it sounds like in Japan, you're really limited to 5 stations. Is that what you?
Yeah, in Tokyo, there's only 5.
Yeah,
5 FM stations. So to be an FM DJ on one of those stations is like a big deal in this country.
Yeah, you're famous there.
Well, kind of, but you know, nobody knows what I look like.
Well, they will now because.
Can I do my last word?
Yeah. So your last word, Henry.
Okay, so Mike from Tokyo and all our fans in Tokyo and all the people in Tokyo, the Cynz love you.
Thank you so much.
Arigato.
Arigato gozaimasu. Domo arigato gozaimasu.
I got nothing.
So much. Thank you so much, and thank you to Cindy Dawson and to Henry Size from the Cynz.
Thank you, Mike.